There's a gym in Philadelphia that doesn't look like much from the outside. No marquee, no neon signs, no corporate sponsorship, just a basement underneath a church in Germantown, one of the most underestimated neighborhoods in one of the most boxing-rich cities on earth. They call it Bosie's Dungeon, and for the last 2 decades, it has been quietly producing one of the most dangerous fighters alive. His name is Jaron Ennis. The world calls him Boots. 35-0, 31 knockouts, an 88% knockout rate, former unified IBF and WBA welterweight champion, and on June 27, 2026, at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, one day after his 29th birthday, he steps into the ring to become a 2-division unified world champion. But before Brooklyn, you need to know where Boots came from, because the story of Jaron Ennis is not just about talent, it's about a family that built a champion and a fighter who learned from everything they got wrong. Germantown, Philadelphia, the Brickyard neighborhood, June 26, 1997. Jaron Ennis was born into a boxing family so deeply committed to the sport that his father, Derek Bosie Ennis Sr., has a famous story about the day it all started. Bosie was hitting a heavy bag in his gym when his infant son, who could barely walk, crawled over and grabbed it. His father took that as a sign. He started teaching Jaron how to throw a jab before he could read. Bosie Ennis never won a world title as a fighter. He had 6 professional fights and moved on to training, but the fire he couldn't finish for himself, he poured directly into his sons. Derek Pooh Ennis, the oldest, reached the top 5 in the ABF middleweight rankings. Farah Quiet Storm Ennis, the middle son, was ranked 6th in the world by the WBC at super middleweight. 2 brothers, both elite prospects, both within reach of world title shots. Neither one got there. Derek Pooh said it himself, and he said it plainly. We wanted to be Philly famous instead of world famous. We were running around. I was on the streets playing and partying. The fame came early and the discipline didn't keep up with it. They trained for fights, not for careers. And the title shots that should have happened never came. Jaron Ennis watched all of it. Every fight, every mistake, every moment where his brothers let the dungeon down. And then he went back downstairs to train. Before we get into the professional career, you need to know how the nickname happened. Because Boots didn't come from the streets or from something he did in the ring. It came from his father calling him Boots, a childhood nickname, and people in the gym hearing it wrong. Over and over, people called him Boots, and eventually Boots stuck. It's a perfect nickname for a fighter who's been misread his entire career, not understood, not fully respected, just heard wrong by the people who should have been paying closer attention. As an amateur, Ennis compiled a claimed record of 58 wins and 3 losses. He won a silver medal at the 2014 US National Golden Gloves at 64 kilograms. He came back in 2015 and took the gold. He competed in the 2015 US Olympic Trials, where he went toe-to-toe with Gary Antoine Russell, a fight that taught him more about the next level than any gym session could. He didn't make the Olympics, but the preparation sharpened him, and on April 30th, 2016, at 18 years old, Jaron Boots Ennis made his professional debut. First round knockout. Corey Muldrew never stood a chance. In his first year as a professional, 2016, Boots fought 8 times, 8 fights, 8 wins. He stopped 7 of them. He was not building slowly. He was announcing himself. The hand speed was the first thing people noticed. Southpaw with a 74-inch reach and the ability to switch stances seamlessly. He could throw from angles that opponents had never practiced for. In Bosie's Dungeon, the philosophy had always been pro-style training. No amateur bad habits, no slapping, no points boxing, full punches, full pressure, trained like a professional before he ever became one. The knockouts kept coming. By 2021, fight 25, he faced Sergey Lipinets, a former IBF light welterweight world champion. A real test. Boots dropped him twice and stopped him in the 6th round. The message was sent. Then Thomas Delorme, then Lamont Roach Jr. stopped in 2 rounds. Then Custio Clayton, then Karen Chukagian, a former world champion, beaten by unanimous decision to capture the IBF interim welterweight title in January 2023. Then in November 2023, Terrence Crawford, the undisputed welterweight champion, declined to defend the IBF title against Ennis as ordered. The IBF stripped Crawford, and just like that, without throwing a single punch, Jaron Ennis became the full IBF welterweight world champion. He defended it by stopping Roy Manvilla in 10 rounds. He defended it again by stopping David Avanesian in 5. He unified with the WBA belt in November 2024 by beating Chukagian a 2nd time. Then April 2025. Boardwalk Hall, Atlantic City. Imantas Stanionis, IBF and WBA unified. Boots stopped him in 6 rounds in front of a sold-out crowd. Unified welterweight champion, 34-0, and completely underpaid by the competition he was getting. After Stanionis, Boots vacated his welterweight titles and moved up to super welterweight at 154 pounds. He had been calling out the biggest names for years: Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr., Virgil Ortiz Jr., and the boxing business kept getting in the way. Crawford took the Spence fight. Ortiz got tied up in legal problems with his promoter. The fights that should have happened didn't, so Boots went to get the fights himself. October 11th, 2025, Philadelphia, Xfinity Mobile Arena, his hometown, his people. Wisma Lima stepped across from him, and in 1 minute and 58 seconds, Boots dropped him twice, and the referee waved it off. First round, his first fight at super welterweight. His message to the division was as clear as it gets: 154 pounds is mine, 1 round at a time. And now, June 27th, 2026, Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York. Xander Zayas, 23-0, the unified WBO and WBA super welterweight champion. Puerto Rican, 23 years old, the youngest unified champion in men's boxing. This is the fight that Built for Fighters was made for. 2 undefeated champions, both legitimate, both elite, and Boots, who turns 29 the day before the fight, is the aggressor, the challenger, the man who came up from a basement in Germantown and is now fighting for a second set of unified titles at a different weight class before his 30th birthday. Boots said it simply before the fight was announced: 154 is my division, 154 is mine. I'm on tour right now. Bring me whoever you want. Here's what makes the Boots Ennis story different from every other undefeated prospect that boxing has produced in the last decade. The brothers got Philly famous and stopped there. The father gave everything he had and never won the big one. And instead of using that as an excuse or a chip on his shoulder that made him reckless, Jaron Ennis turned it into a blueprint. He studied what went wrong. He stayed in the dungeon when everyone else went home. He didn't want fame. He wanted the belt, both of them. His idol list tells you who shaped him: Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., Pernell Whitaker, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson. 4 of the greatest technical fighters of all time, plus the most terrifying puncher of a generation. That combination, in one fighter out of one basement in Germantown, is exactly what Boots Ennis has become. The technique of a chess player, the power of someone who doesn't need 12 rounds to make a point, 88% knockout rate, forged by pressure in every session of Bosie's dungeon. Not given anything, not handed titles. He waited for Crawford to vacate. He waited for Ortiz to free himself from legal problems. And while he waited, he kept knocking people out. June 27th, Barclays Center, the day after his birthday. Brooklyn is about to meet the problem that Germantown built. This is KKE Built for Fighters. Like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, does Boots Ennis become a 2-division unified champion on June 27th? Let's hear it.